Hey, 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 it's AAA Wednesday, which stands for Ask Alyssa Anything. This is my weekly Q&A session where I'm popping into the comments and answering questions you have about writing stronger stories and getting your books published. I love hearing about your individual publishing journeys and helping however I can through your struggles and concerns. So please keep the questions coming. Before we dive in today, 2 pieces of housekeeping. I'll keep it super quick. Number 1, if you haven't yet subscribed yet, please consider joining our amazing community by hitting the subscribe button. In addition to these Q&As, I publish weekly videos with deep dives into a specific writing technique, or I talk about the publishing industry, so I don't want you to miss out on all of that. Housekeeping item number 2, if you can just scroll down really quickly and hit the thumbs up button. It takes no time at all, but helps out my channel so much, and I really appreciate it. Here's the first question today. Hey, Alyssa, is it strange to write, edit, revise, and get beta readers for the 2 halves of your manuscript separately? Almost as if they're different books. Both manuscripts I've written have had a strong midpoint, and I've basically gone through this process both times. Is this wrong or a bad idea? Sometimes I find the feedback on part 1 can help to inform me on how to better write part 2. This is a super interesting technique that I admittedly haven't heard of before. It's certainly not uncommon to get feedback just on the first portion of your novel. Sometimes, for whatever reason, you want to focus on just that first portion and make sure it's super strong. But what is less common is getting feedback on the second portion of a manuscript from a person who hasn't read the first portion. If this strategy is helping you figure out holes in your story or possible areas for improvement, there's no reason not to do it. I would just be curious, especially to know if the feedback from the separate readers on the second half is as helpful as the feedback from the people who have only read the first half. That's because, at least when I'm editing or evaluating a manuscript, I'm always looking at the story from a holistic perspective. And it's difficult to evaluate things like pacing or character transformation arcs or suspense if you aren't reading the story linearly or in its entirety. You can evaluate those things in an abbreviated capacity if you're only reading the first half, but I would find it difficult on a personal level to evaluate a story just based on the second half because I don't have any of the context for what the characters have already gone through. If you go the route of having your beta readers read different portions of the manuscript, I would definitely consider having at least some of them read the entire manuscript and see what that feedback looks like, just because you do want someone to come to your story with an understanding of how the entire thing pans out. Here's the next question. Hi, Alyssa. I value your opinion and could really use your guidance. Can a book series or visual adaptation be listed as a comp versus a single title within a series? I intend to present my book as having series potential. My perfect comps that best describe my book are all series with installments being published 1998 to 2000, 2000 to 2006, and 2005 to 2020. I know that more recent comp titles are preferred, but these older books series perfectly reflect what I'm working on and are still largely relevant today. Each has had, is in current development to have a resurgence today through visual adaptations. I have given every effort to find recent books that hold similarities to mine, but I'm an avid reader and nothing in the current market seems to fit or would be quite a stretch when I already have my perfect comps, even if their current visual adaptations stem from dated literary works. Let me tackle the first part of this question, which is, can you use series as comp titles? If you intend to position your book as a series and not a standalone novel, then I think it would definitely be appropriate to comp your book to other series. If your book is standalone, but shares elements with a novel from a series, then I recommend pulling out a specific book from the series that shares elements with your own standalone novel. Now let's tackle the second aspect of the question, which is that the series are dated, but have visual adaptations coming out or recently released. If they really are perfect comps, like you say, I think you can go ahead and use them, particularly the more recent series that you said ends in 2020. Comps work best if they are still very culturally relevant, whether that is because they were newly published or because there was a recent TV show or movie made based on the book. That said, I would still challenge you to maybe throw in a more recent fiction comp even if it isn't as perfect as these older dated ones, just because that does show an awareness of the contemporary publishing landscape. So maybe you use one or two of these series that are a bit older, but also a published book from the past 5 years. Maybe it's not quite as close of a match, but remember, your comp doesn't need to be an exact match of your book. It just needs to share some kind of element. The only other caution I would have here is to make sure you're not comping to something that is super canonical, like the Harry Potter series is likely not going to be the best comp for most people, just because it is more of an outlier in the publishing landscape than indicative of the level of success that a book published today would likely get. If you're enjoying these Q&A sessions, I have good news. I've been putting out even more resources on my newsletter website, chapter-break.com, if you want exclusive interviews with literary agents and best-selling authors, or more deep dive content from my background as a developmental editor. Definitely sign up. This way, you're going to get all of those resources directly in your inbox. And as a freebie for signing up, you will get my story self-assessment worksheet. This is a quiz I designed specially for my YouTube community to help you get unstuck with your current work in progress. If you have a draft but you don't know where to take it from here, what's working well or what could be improved, check it out and see if it helps you identify areas to focus on in your revision. The links to download your free story self-assessment worksheet and check out Chapter Break are in the description below. We have time for one more question today. Hi, Alyssa. I have a question. I am querying a middle grade high fantasy. I've noticed many agents recently are wanting urban fantasy, and a lot are specifically noting they don't want to represent high fantasy. Do you think I should keep pushing to publish my high fantasy, or should I try a new project in urban fantasy since it seems to be preferred and in high demand? This question seems to boil down to, should you write for what agents want, or should you write what you want to write and feel compelled to tell? I always suggest the latter. Write the story that you feel passionate about telling, and try not to focus so much on what literary agents are saying or on their manuscript wish lists or what publishers seem to be wanting at any given time. Because ultimately, trends change and the industry is subjective, and maybe by the time you finish writing your book, the tides will turn and more agents will be looking for books within your genre. You never know. If you have a story idea in another genre and it resonates with you, by all means, pursue it. But don't start writing in a different genre just because you think that that project has more potential for publishing. First and foremost, you're going to spend so much time with your story that you truly need to feel passionate enough about it to put this much time and energy and work into it. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted a question. If you have something you'd like to ask, drop it in the comments and it will be added to my queue for future videos. Before you head out, don't forget your free story self-assessment worksheet and check out my newsletter website. Those links are in the description below. Hit that thumbs up button if you are enjoying these sessions and hit that subscribe button to join our amazing community. Thank you so much for watching and happy writing.